There used to be this time when entertainment started with a story, not a checklist, not a trend, not a marketing plan, a story. Someone sat down, maybe in a messy room with scribbling on napkins or a weird schizophrenic diagram behind them, like what I have, and they said, what if? They built characters with flaws, with dreams, and they gave them something to fight for. And then they dragged them through hell to get there. That's how books, and in this case, movies used to begin with meaning, with heart. But today, that's not how it works anymore. Now, the story comes last. The trailer drops before the script is finished. The casting announcements make the headlines before a single line of dialogue is written, and the brand is chosen, the buzz is built, and these hashtags are all locked in. Only then does someone ask, what is this actually about? It's not art anymore. It's content. It's polished, it's market tested, and it's approved for all demographics. But on top of all of it, it's empty. And you can feel it, especially in one place, the reboot. See, we're living in this time where studios aren't bringing back beloved franchises because they have something to say. They're bringing them back because it's the name that sells. And that's it. That's their whole strategy. You grab an old IP, you slap a fresh coat on it, and you cast someone who's new and maybe buzzworthy. And then you throw in a few lines that signal how self-aware it all is. And boom, you've got a reboot. There's a problem, and it's the core of the writing. And it's in almost every single case. Store the story isn't built. It's repurposed. It's not about capturing what made the original resonate. It's more about using that name as bait and hoping the audience will stick around long enough not to notice that the very soul of the thing is missing. And when the audience pushes back, oh, it's never the story's fault. Can't be. No, it's always the fault of the audience. They weren't ready. They're stuck in the past. They don't want progress. No, we just want a good story. If there's one company that's turned this process into a science, it's Disney. I mean, let's look at their live action remakes. They're the perfect example of what happens when you prioritize brand over storytelling. Let's look at The Little Mermaid. Instead of expanding the original tale or finding new emotional ground to explore, remake felt like it was just kind of checking off boxes. The songs were mostly there, the visuals were very expensive, but the charm and the spark, they were gone. And let's look at Peter Pan and Wendy. Somehow, a story about eternal youth and boundless imagination got turned into a lecture. It tried so hard to say something important that it forgot to say something magical. Peter Pan didn't need to be a metaphor for colonial drama. He was a symbol of freedom, of wonder, of flight. And the moment you make him a vehicle for guilt, the whole thing crashes. And I think the worst example is probably the most recent, and it's the Snow White remake. Not because of what they changed, because of how they talked about it. When your lead actress openly mocks the original, calls it creepy, outdated, anti-feminist, you're not reimagining something. You're disowning it. And you don't get to wear the crown of a classic and then insult everyone who loved it. That's not reinvention. That's condescension. And these remakes don't feel like they're made by people who loved the originals. They feel like they were made by people who were embarrassed by them. And that's a problem. Now, I want to talk about one of the most misunderstood parts of this entire conversation: casting. And here's the truth: representation does matter. Full stop. Everyone deserves to see themselves reflected in stories, and everyone deserves a seat at the table. But when you change a character's race, gender, or sexuality, not to explore something new or add depth, but to purely send a message, you're not telling a story, you're signaling. And signaling without storytelling is empty. Look at Ghostbusters 2016. It did not fail because the cast was female. It failed because it wasn't a story, it was a statement. Look at The Craft Legacy. It brought modern themes to the table, but it didn't give the audience anything to connect to beyond slogans. It was shallow, not because of who it included, but because of how little it actually said. In Velma, it wasn't hated because it centered a queer brown girl. It was hated because it was smug, it was joyless, and it disconnected from everything that Scooby Doo fans actually liked about Scooby Doo in the first place. If your entire reboot falls apart the moment someone questions the casting, then you didn't have a story. All you had was a headline. A good character is not defined by identity, they're defined by humanity. Give us someone layered, give us someone flawed, give us someone brave, messy, real, and we will follow them anywhere, no matter what they identify as or who they are or where they come from. But if all you give us is a checkbox and a costume, don't act surprised when we tune out. And there's another trend, this obsession with breaking legacy characters, not challenging them, not growing them, but breaking them. Luke Skywalker, he was reduced to this bitter recluse who'd given up on all hope. Indiana Jones just stumbled through the Dial of Destiny like he was a guest star in someone else's story, and they did everything they could to make her as unlikable as possible. He-Man was killed off in the first episode to make room for a better replacement. This is not subversion, it's blatant sabotage. It's taking characters who inspired generations and tearing them down, not to add nuance, but to make the new cast look more enlightened. And there's no respect for what came before. There's no effort to build on it. It's just a smug sense that the past was flawed and the present knows better. But storytelling doesn't work like that. You don't win trust by destroying the things people love. You win trust by earning trust. You don't inspire people by breaking their heroes. You inspire them by evolving heroes. We're not watching myths being reinterpreted. We're watching them being dismantled and then replaced with an empty shell. A lot of studios still don't understand. Audiences aren't stupid, whether it's for a book or whether it's for a TV show or whether it's for a movie. They might not always know how to articulate what's wrong with the piece of entertainment that you're giving them, but they can feel it. They can feel when a story has no soul. They can feel when they're being pandered to. And they can feel when the whole point of the entertainment media isn't to entertain them, but to lecture them. And they're getting pretty tired of it. People don't mind diversity. People don't mind progress. As a matter of fact, you could say they even want those things, but they want it woven into the fabric of a real story, a story with stakes, with emotion, with humanity. When you build a character who feels like a real person, who hurts, grows, fails, tries again, the audience connects with them, no matter what they look like, no matter who they love. But when a character exists only to carry a message, the audience disconnects completely. And no, this is not me saying anything about being anti-woke. This is me saying be anti-lazy, be anti-shallow, be anti-hollow. Bring something of substance. And this brings us down to the real issue. See, these reboots, they don't start with writers. They start with spreadsheets. A meeting happens and someone will say, "We still own this IP, so let's do something with it." And from that moment on, the goal isn't to tell a story, it's to build a product. The casting is picked for maximum engagement. The plot is built around social media moments. And the tone is so focus tested that every single sharp edge is filed down. And the end result is this film or book series that looks familiar, smells familiar, but it feels off. It's hollow, it's synthetic. There's no arc, there's no heart, there's no sense of transformation. There's just references, costumes, buzzwords, and Easter eggs. And then there's this vague feeling that someone somewhere wanted this to go viral way more than they wanted it to be good. And that's what happens when storytelling becomes content. So, what do? We stop asking what a story says and start asking what it feels like. Because stories aren't sermons, they're mirrors. They reflect who we are, they reflect what we value, what we fear, and what we hope to become. We didn't fall in love with franchises or titles of books or titles of movies and movie posters and trailers. We fell in love with characters, with journeys, with moments within these stories that mattered. And until studios and publishing houses start to realize that, and until they remember that great stories don't come from boardrooms, we're going to keep missing the point. That's why Hollywood is equivalent to book talk slop that you see all the time. This completely irrelevant thing happened in a way that would never actually happen, and I'm putting it in there to check all the boxes. That's everything you're going to find on a bookshelf now. That's everything you're going to find coming out of Hollywood now. But there is good news. The audience, you, me, we still know what a good story feels like. We haven't forgotten. We still care. So when someone finally dares to write something real again, something honest, something brave, and something that's built on heart and not on hashtags, will show up. Now, I don't normally do videos like this in this vein, but it seems to be what everyone's talking about, and I had something to say. But at the core of everything, it's about the writing. Your writing can't be hollow. Your writing can't be shallow. Your writing has to have heart. If you're writing something simply to sell it, we want something that's going to make us feel. We want something that we can go, wow, when we see it. And that's all it takes. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Uh, I answer all the comments, and we'll see if this one makes everyone mad. If it doesn't, maybe not enough people saw it. So like it, share it, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell that weird aunt that only comes over on holidays and smells weird. All right. But until then, I will see you guys on the next one.